Well, hey, Prosperity Collabs, welcome back to another episode. This is one I have wanted to do for a long time. So back in the COVID days, I was selling a house and had the opportunity to work with Katherine Materiale. And it was one of those transactions where, I will be honest, when we entered contract, my TC at the time said to me, listen, I know Katherine. She knows her stuff. She's sharp. You've got to be on your A game. And I was like, well, we'll be fine. You were just a joy to work with. It was a great transaction.
As for you.
And it went horribly wrong when in your final walkthrough, the house was flooded because my clients had moved out, the refrigerator had leaked. And I was just so impressed by the way you dealt with all of that.
I was impressed with you and your sellers. You guys were amazing.
Well, I mean, it could have been a nightmare, but it ended up in sellers and buyers who send each other Christmas cards now. And it made me a fan, and I've been following you ever since. I use your social media as examples when I'm talking to consulting clients. So I'm excited to have you here.
I'm glad to be here.
I always start out, nobody starts in real estate. I say that. Now, some people do. A lot of people have a life before. You are one of the top agents in the Temecula Valley, and we'll talk about the business details in a bit, but give us some background. How did you end up doing this? Was this you were a little girl and you dreamt about, being a real estate agent, or was this something that you fell into? How did it all begin? Oh my
gosh. Okay, so I actually love this question when people ask me because I say because my dad told me to.
There you go. Okay.
I literally got my license because, and if he's watching right now, he'll giggle at it too.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I went to school for television and radio production.
Okay.
So yeah, that's why I do a lot of video.
Yeah.
So that was my passion, but that was in England. And then my family moved back here from England and they said, do you want to stay or do you want to go? My plan was to go the BBC route, but I'm a huge family person and I decided to come back to the States. So we worked within the family industry, which at that time, my dad got licensed in 1990.
Okay.
And we were either looking in windows at homes for sale, or we were looking in antique shops my whole life growing up.
Okay.
That was my life. And we got to a point where my dad said, sweetheart, you need to get your real estate license. Mm-hmm. And so I did. And that was in 2003, the same year that my Daniel was born.
Okay.
I used to door knock with him in the stroller.
There you go. So 2003, you get your license, but the background was media television production in the UK.
Yes.
That is phenomenal. How long did you live in the UK?
Oh, that's a whole other story. I was born there.
Yeah.
When I was a toddler, my dad wanted to follow the American dream.
Yeah.
And so they came here. I did my younger years here in San Diego, where my dad was a pastor, and then got his real estate license because pastors don't get paid.
Yes, this is true. Yeah.
And then his father came down with cancer. Totally, God healed him. But we went back to England right before I was supposed to start high school.
Wow.
So I did high school and university there.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And then came back here after.
That's fascinating. I had no idea. So that's very interesting.
There you go.
Okay. So you got into real estate. It's sort of a family business, you said.
Yeah.
And so how long was it? It's 2003. You had a baby. So there's a whole lot happening here. How long was it before you felt like you were a real estate agent?
Oh my gosh.
Right.
Chris, I sucked. I was so bad in the beginning. And I didn't work for my father when I first started.
Okay.
He told me to get my license, and he actually connected me with the Ramages back in the day. And I worked with an amazing family that sold in the Rancho Santa Fe area. And it took, I started doing open houses and in marketing. Marketing back then, it was very different. Mm-hmm. And then years later when and then I had a gap in between where my husband and I decided to go buy a house sight unseen in Colorado. And we were out there for a couple years, and my license expired while I was there. Mm-hmm. And then my dad calls me and he says, honey, I need you to come home and I need you to work with me because it was 2008
Yeah. Oh, good Lord. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he was one of the big REO agents in this area. And he said, I need somebody who's going to hustle, and I need somebody I can trust.
Yeah.
And so I came back, and I had no life for 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were working with the banks, and then we were working with a big hedge fund, doing a lot of flips. That was what was being done in that time. So I feel like, and I went with him everywhere. I was in the car with him. I listened to every conversation. I was attached to him at the hip. And I'm so grateful for that time, because he is an insanely good negotiator and ideas person. I learned an abundance. But my honest answer to that question is, after working under his tutelage for so many years, my husband and I prayed about it a lot. And he had encouraged me to go out on my own for a long time, and I didn't have the courage to do it. I didn't believe in myself.
Yeah.
My husband did.
Yeah.
I didn't. And our anniversary is January 4th. So every January, Adam and I go on a little trip. And we're on one of our trips, and we always go over, hey, what does God want from us this year, and what are our goals for this year? And we decided it's time, and I put my plan into place. And it was after that I was able to do this business how I wanted to do it. That is when I saw things change, and I feel like that's when I've had an insane amount of development, because I'm able to serve people how it resonates with me and how I feel like it's my purpose.
So what year was that when you stepped out and you guys got like, okay, now it is Katherine Materiale.
I don't know the answer to that question, but I feel like it was about 7 or 8 years ago.
Okay. Yeah. Isn't it weird? I mean, I'm at this age now where I have no frame of reference on time and space. You know what I mean? Like, it could have happened yesterday or 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Yeah, I get that.
I am really bad at tracking when things happen. I mean, you're lucky if I remember dates for birthdays and anniversaries.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
so
Yeah. Well, that's what a CRM is for.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. That's I tell people all the time.
Follow-up boss tells me when to text people.
You can be the friend you admire by cheating. You know what I mean? So use your CRM. That's what it's for. Yeah, totally.
True.
Okay, so you stepped out on your own. Now, when you were working with your dad, it was the REO thing, and that was huge. It was it was a lot, right? Because you're not just selling homes, you're sort of rehabbing homes to sell homes and carrying all that cost.
So much.
And just, I remember as a buyer's agent at that time, it was so hard. Because every deal you felt like you were against, 1,000 investors, and you would think it would have been easier because homes were so cheap, and if you had a client, but it was still really hard.
It was very hard.
So, did you work primarily with the buyer side? Were you managing the portfolio? What were you doing through that?
Sure, and we had the hedge fund too. So, I was honestly. It was dealing with a lot of asset managers and investors for me in that time with my father. So our client was not really the consumer. Our client was the people that were in charge of the money.
Yeah.
So it was a little different. I did do a lot of open houses in that time, and I did work with a lot of buyers. That was back in the day when I would sit in open house, and I would come away having met 6 amazing couples or families that just wandered into Temecula because they heard about this place called Temecula, and they didn't have anybody helping them. And so I would end up helping them find home. And I think having the connections with the other REO agents helped as well, because maybe there were 40 offers that were submitted, but the reputation that we had that we would get it done and that we would work with integrity definitely helped get you to the top.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because you came to your residential real estate career then from a business place, right? You were working with banks, you were working with hedge funds, you were really running the business of a real estate business, which is different. A lot of real estate agents come in and they can be very successful based on, I call them relationship savants, right? They're just really relational. But you look at the business side and it's like, Yes. But you had
I've worked with those people.
Oh yeah, we all have. But you had the backwards. You had the business first. But it sounds like after doing that, you really had a desire or a need to now be part of people's stories in a bigger way.
So much.
Yeah.
Because honestly, so again, to give my father full credit, I stepped into that family business per se. So those relationships were not because of accounts that I set up. That was because of his years of experience and his relationships. And I benefited from learning how to work in those arenas, but it wasn't where my heart was. My heart is true. Like you mentioned the word story, and that I can't tell you the number of times that I just tell people, I am so honored to be a part of your story.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
all right, I see you getting emotional.
I'm sorry.
It's not the first time I've seen it, but this is who you are, right?
It is.
And I think that's what again, that's what initially made you stand out to me as an agent was your client care. Was, everybody says client care, right? But that doesn't mean you care. But I've seen that with you. You care, right? And
I do.
So,
for real.
For real. No, absolutely. Yeah. And so you made this decision to step out, and maybe the pace it's a different pace at that point. But it changed it from being, again, it's a family business, and it was always about integrity. But now it was, no, but I want to be part of people's legacy, people's story, helping them get that.
And empower them.
Yeah, absolutely. That isn't an easy first step, though. So, you're kind of on the treadmill of REO, big business, and obviously that market came and it went. But when you jumped out on your own, was it instant success, or was it, oh, wow, I got to go?
I am a slow build.
Okay, yeah, okay.
So the tortoise and the hare, I am 100% the tortoise. I am not the hare. And I used to be really hard on myself about that because there are some amazing realtors in this valley that they step in and they crush it right off the bat. And I am like, wow, you are just phenomenal. I'm amazed. And you get little things to R&D and to learn. That's not me. I am definitely someone where I take my time and I add something and I master it. Then I add something and I master it. And I just continually build on that. And it was the same thing with this, just with, okay, how can I serve my clients better? How can I reach people better? And then even just our systems, because you mentioned that sometimes people are people, but they're not systems oriented.
Sure,
and oh my gosh, just their book of business is a hot mess. I am really OCD.
Yeah.
So I'm this combination of the driver plus the influencer together. And, but I really I want things to flow. And part of the way that we want to serve people, and honestly, not just our clients, but the agent that we're working with on the other side, the escrow company, the title company, the lender, I want to leave every single person that we are in that transaction with, per se, which I hate that word transaction, but it is.
Sure.
I want to make their life easier. I want them to look good to the people they're supposed to look good to. And I want them to feel served.
Yeah.
So we just have all these things that go on behind the scenes that we've added over the years to fine tune the tiniest detail.
No, I love that. And it's, you say you want everyone across the board to feel served. And, on the one hand, that's very altruistic. On the other hand, that's, people talk about, white glove service, concierge service, all those things. But if it's not across the board, any one of those people can ruin the experience for your client, right? If
and that's a reflection on you.
Absolutely. Like if you have a combative relationship with the co-op agent, that's on you, right? Or with the escrow company or whoever, right? That's not necessarily an understanding everyone has, right? How did you get to that point where you thought it's not just, I want everyone to feel served?
Honest answer?
Sure.
The Bible.
Yeah.
I am who I am, and I know who I am, and I am a daughter of God.
There you
and
go.
I want to, and hey, wherever you are at, I love you, and I want you to have your opinion, and I am going to meet you where you're at. I want how I am as a wife, how I am as a mother, and how I am in running my business to reflect serving people well and loving people like Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is how I live every aspect of my life.
Yeah. Well, it's, it is the what would Jesus do, but not as a cliche. It's as like, no, I remember I was in an interview and they asked, because I'm a strong person of faith, and they said, well, how would you, if you interacted with this person or that person, what would you? I said, well, I would want them to have encountered Christ, right? So if they don't believe what I do or they live their life in a different way, they still need to encounter Christ.
I just
right?
want to love on people.
Yeah, totally.
That's all I want to do.
I want them to know that they're loved the way that I'm loved,
Yep.
And to bring that as the foundation of your real estate business, then it's less, now it's not professional standards. Now it's I'm in mission, right?
Yeah.
And that changes everything.
It's purpose.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I mentioned as we were kind of in pre-show, if I'd looked at your business like 3 years ago, you were or maybe 4 years ago, I would say you were more buyer-centric. There were a lot of buyers. And if I looked at your social media, a lot of buyer stories, and I would have even said Catherine's a phenomenal buyer's agent. I was looking at your numbers today, and it's like all listings all of a sudden. And I know you mentioned you're shooting for 50-50.
I'm usually about 50-50.
You're usually about 50-50. What was that? So was that an intentional shift to more listings? Because let's face it, in this market right now, there's a lot of people who tell you there aren't any listings, right?
There's always homes being sold.
There's
it's just who's selling them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, because you had said I'm normally 50-50, and you had said, but it seems like there's just more listings now. And I said that makes a lot of sense to me. And I'll kind of expand on that. I think it makes sense to me because my guess is there's a lot of these listings that were the buyers you were taking care of 4 years ago, who now called you back because of that service mission mindset.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. So you've gotten yourself into this problem where now you have to go find more people for your database. But yeah.
Well, they do that for me.
They do that for. Okay, tell me about that.
Well, when you serve people when you have systems, when you listen, that's a man. Who knew that listening could be so powerful?
I struggle with it. I'll be honest.
My husband would say the same.
Yeah, but it's true though, right? Because again, how can I serve you if I don't know what it is that you're looking for, right?
And serving their needs, not your wants, right? So when you truly are in flow with them of what they are wanting to achieve, and you empower them. People, if you go to a restaurant and you love it, you want to tell everybody about it because they're going to go and they're going to love it and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, Chris, thank you so much for telling me about that restaurant. If you go and they're going to have bad service and eat bad food, that makes you look bad.
Right.
So people refer when they know that you're going to make them look good. It's subconscious, but nevertheless, that is the case. And also, we stay in flow with the people that are in our circle, whether or not it's our clients or people within the neighborhoods that we market to, that we sell homes in. I am always in flow with those people. Yeah. And we are consistent and we are strategic, and we don't do it in a way where it's about us. It's in a way where it's about them.
Yeah.
And so I think people pick up on the authenticity. I was texting with a guy last night in one of the neighborhoods that I sell homes in. And, I was asking him, hey, are you going to do the holiday decorating contest?
Yeah.
He had done one before. And I always reach out to people and say, hey, it's coming up. We're judging next week. You want to do it? And,
okay, hold on now. So wait, you host a Halloween decorating contest?
Oh, we do all kinds of things.
For the love of goodness, thank you.
Well, this is actually a Christmas. So we do Halloween because this one particular neighborhood, I've even taken my kids trick-or-treating there instead of my own neighborhood because they get down.
Yeah.
I mean, they know what they're doing.
Are we talking, Catherine and I live around the same area, but are we talking Leaf Streets? Because, there's
Santa Rosa Highlands.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, take Will over there.
Okay, absolutely.
We'll take Will and Emily.
There you go. Yeah,
okay.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So So, okay, but back to this. So you're doing contests for decorations seasonally, or you're doing a lot of stuff, I imagine.
Yeah. So I let them know, hey, and people who live in the neighborhood, we meet at the clubhouse, we walk around, we have the houses, we have our little sheets, and we, judge the thing. And I have several volunteers judging with me. That way it's all balanced out and very fair.
Yeah.
And then I have 3 different prizes, gift cards. And then, somebody wins each gift card.
I love that.
It's just fun.
Okay, so I have been telling agents for years, do like a light thing, like do a holiday contest, right? And it's a way you can get the community involved in this, and just to hear that you're doing it just makes my heart happy, because it's such a duh.
Yeah. And we just had our Cocoa with Santa event too.
I love that.
And that was so great.
Okay, so this quarter, I say this all the time, this is God's gift to real estate agents. Because
I do so much in this quarter.
Yes, yeah.
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
yes.
And you're going to have a phenomenal first quarter. You're going to have an amazing second quarter. And it's because you were like, hey, Thanksgiving happened and Halloween happened and Christmas happened. And it just was duh, right? I mean, so many people miss that. Right?
Yeah.
They're going to sleep right now.
Well, everybody's in Cabo right now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Which I love seeing everybody's posts on Instagram and Facebook. And I'm like, oh, they're having a fun time. That's great.
Right. But then they're going to get here in January and have to start scrambling. And you're just putting it in there.
I hustle.
Yeah.
Q4, I hustle. We're revamping. Right now we're redoing my website. We finished up the marketing plan. We're ordering all the stuff that we need for next year. I mean, we get everything in place so that once we get past Christmas and January 1st hits and I start getting the calls of, okay, Katherine, we got to get this going, that I'm not pulled in different directions.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's, there's a season to everything. Right?
Yes.
The Bible tells us. And this is that season to sow. And so, the industry might slow down a little bit transactionally, although your November was pretty amazing, actually. We'll have to talk about that. But yeah, it's when you do that work so that when it's time to harvest, you have a big harvest. And a lot of people, they just don't sow right now. And then the harvest comes and they panic.
I think it's sowing all year round, though.
Oh, it absolutely is.
That's the thing that my dad taught me, too, is that word pipeline, which I hate to sound salesy. So if any of my clients are listening to this, just show me some grace. But, we are constantly in flow with our circle all year round. And my dad always said, think 90 days out, think 90 days out. Who are you talking to now who might be having you talk to somebody who is going to end up buying or selling a home? And what a lot of realtors do is they put themselves out there, whatever that looks like. They get a deal, then they put all their effort into that deal, and they don't do any of the other stuff.
Yeah.
And then it's feast or famine.
Right. Well, and it's, I say this is a season to sow because you may not see the transactional result right now.
No.
But it's like you said.
That's okay.
But this season you have so many excuses to love on the people in your world, right? And if you approach it that way, I'm not, and again, it's client care. You have to really care. But it's like, I just had so many opportunities to, Seth Godin says, to create surprise and delight. Right. And it's Cocoa with Santa, or it's a Christmas thing, or it's the Halloween.
Or egg your yard, or
all of those things, and I just think, you look at this industry and you mentioned there's some people who they get in it and they blow up, right? Really fast. Right. And you're a slow burn.
Yes.
But I look at the sustainability of a life I want to live. Right. And so you can get really fast, really quick by doing a lot of deals with anonymous people who come in off of the web and there's, if that's your thing, great. But I look at what you're building, and it's the sustainable. There's a community. I can go for a walk, and people don't see me coming and run away. It's
hide.
I'm part of something. And you look at agents. There's a number of people I can think of who've built that, and it's like, well, what would you rather do? Do you want to continue to just chase people who have no connection with you, or do you really want to?
Their answer might be yes to that, and that's okay for them.
And that's okay for them.
That's not me.
Right.
I feel very empty with that.
Yeah.
I mean, even, for those who find me online and we don't know each other and they weren't sent to me from somebody that, has worked with me or knows me, that rapport is built very quickly.
Sure.
So it's who I am.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Well, you mentioned we just a second ago. You said we're doing this. We're revamping our website. We're doing, which brings me to you started it was Katherine Materiale, right? But you've been in the process of putting together a team over the last couple of years as well.
A SEAL team.
A SEAL team, yes, and so now it's you, and I know you have a number of agents working with you. Tell me about the team and that whole journey.
Sure. Well, and when you talk about what I want to create, I want to create something that my son can inherit. And I don't think I'll ever stop selling homes because I just love working with people and I love doing it. I love every aspect of it, but I want to get to the point where I'm probably going to be that 84-year-old grandma and I'm still like doing funky videos and Daniel will be laughing at me on how I do it. Daniel is my oldest son. He is 21.
Okay.
He got his license 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And, when he was in high school, at first we thought he was going to be a math teacher. And it just kind of went through this journey of, this is the kid that was in the stroller when I was door knocking, and he went to showings with me when he was little, and he's grown up watching Mom. And he came to me and he said, I want something where I can make a difference for people. And so that's how it happened. So just to be clear, he came to me. I did not come to him.
Yep. Yeah.
And I always like to point that out to people.
Yeah.
So, he works alongside me, and he's fantastic for any of our clients that are those first-time home buyers or, the kind of younger millennials. And now our Gen Zs are starting to buy houses, which is so exciting. And I love seeing their journey. And he's amazing with that. And he's amazing with all of our clients. Everybody loves him.
Yeah.
And then we have Catalina. I could not live without Catalina. We have a joke. I always tell her, you are never allowed to leave me. And she said, okay, you're never allowed to leave me either. And she just is the yin to my yang. And she is also licensed, but she came to me actually by request because she was working as part of a team, and that team dissolved. And so I took her on as an agent, but we very quickly learned she's not a producer. She's not a salesperson.
Yeah.
But I could see this gift in her. And so I took her with me to a couple of listing prep things and kind of tested her out on stuff. I took her to lunch. I said, what if you stay in real estate, but you do something different? So she is my operations manager. And then we have Amy. And Amy is also a licensed agent, and she can produce, but she also has got this great aesthetic. And so she helps a lot with our social media.
Okay.
And then we have Anne, who is my virtual assistant. And I wish she was here because I'd love to spend time with her, but she's in the Philippines. And all of the stuff that you see on social media, it's all her. And all those, all the little details, it's all her.
Okay.
So that's it. That's our team. It's not big.
But what I heard is I have collected this group of wonderful, talented people who help me be better at what I do.
I can't do everything.
Right. Yeah.
That's impossible.
Right.
I want to go on dates with my husband.
Yeah. Tell me about it. Yeah. Totally.
And put my phone down.
Yeah. But there's so many people build a team, and their mindset is they just give away the things they don't want to do to people. Where it sounds like what you did is you found people and you realize, wow, they're really good at X.
Yes.
And then I can be, so, it allows you to focus on what you do really well. They do that. And then you can stay in your zone, right?
Yes.
And at the same time, you're building a legacy, right?
Yes.
You're kind of mentoring your son. So it sounds, it sounds like your son is really the agent who's working as an agent, right? Kind of your right hand on transactions.
Yep. But Catalina and Amy can produce if they want.
If they want, but
yes.
That's just not their wheelhouse,
True.
Right? But what they do allows you and Daniel to kind of continue to go get more business, right? Yeah. Oh, I love that. It's leverage. That's what it's about, right?
Yeah.
And I see a lot of teams who they just get bigger, but they don't get leverage. And so you end up with a team leader who's just more and more stressed out because they built a team, but they didn't build leverage, whereas again, it's a slow burn, but you're giving more and more leverage so you can be more and more specialized.
Yes.
Yeah.
Allow me to go out and do what I do best.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you do best, Katherine?
I Well, number one, that listening piece.
Mm-hmm.
And truly the discernment and the knowing the questions to ask, or have learned the questions to ask of what it is people are trying to achieve and their why. Mm-hmm. That why is so important. And then understanding that, helping them come up with a strategy that is actually going to help them get there. Mm-hmm. And not just that one thing, but for decades to come. Mm-hmm. And then the creativity behind that to execute. I also really love all the fun videos that we get to do. Like mm-hmm. when we have a listing to sell and I'm walking through a home and I'm like, ooh, I come up with all these little fun ideas. Mm-hmm. And then Mike, he's phenomenal. Mike is the photographer that we use. And I kind of brainstorm with him and we bounce ideas off each other and we just come up with this fun, beautiful marketing that's mm-hmm. just exciting for me, and it's just fun to push it out, and our clients see it and they're like, oh my gosh, maybe I don't want to move. And I'm like, it's like that Love It or List It show, right?
Yeah.
But they really do want to move, but for a second they're like, oh my gosh, I want to buy my house.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. It's the biggest compliment that they can give.
So what you said about listening and finding out what their why is, their journey, what their goals are, and that's your approach to your clients. How do you think that has influenced you as a leader now? Because I say this, you being a good real estate agent doesn't mean you're going to naturally be a good leader, right?
No.
That's a whole nother lesson and skill set. So how has that transition to leadership been, and how has your approach to your clients influenced your approach to your team?
I'm still learning.
Okay. Yeah.
I think having a... I think you got to be coachable, Chris. Mm-hmm. Even I always tell my clients too, I'm like, if there's something that you're not comfortable with or it just doesn't sit right, or if we're not serving you how, granted we have our systems, we're not going to change certain things, but if we're not serving you the way that you want to be served, I want to know. I always say I put my big girl pants on every day. Mm-hmm. And that really relates to, our team too. And I know it sounds silly, but I don't see it as a team. I see us as a family.
Sure.
And with your family, you got to be able to talk through stuff. With your family, these are the people that see the rawness of you. These are the mm-hmm. people that see you on the good days and the bad days. Now, for my clients, I will save them the if I'm having a Monday kind of thing, I'm going to shield them from that, right? That's professional. But, Catalina, I may call her and just have a moment where I got to vent or I got to cry, and she does the same thing with me. And I think being able to listen to what is it that's important to you, and do you think that we should do this differently, and just hearing their ideas and hearing how they want to contribute and finding ways to empower them just like we empower our clients is hugely important, because then it's not a job anymore. Mm-hmm. Then it's purpose.
Yeah.
And anyone who works as part of the Materiale Group family, I want them to live out their purpose. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anything I can do to facilitate that is important to me.
Yeah. One of the most powerful things I heard about leadership was, your team doesn't give up their goals just because you've gotten clarity on your goals.
No.
Right. But if you can get clarity on their goals, then you're not going to have a problem hitting your goals if you're helping them achieve theirs. Right.
So true.
Yeah. And it's a lesson a lot of people just can't get, right? But it sounds like this was your client care approach, so it naturally translates to your leadership approach that this isn't just utilitarian. You're cogs in my machine.
No.
Again, they've all got their own story.
Absolutely. And your goals should definitely align. There is a culture fit, right?
But, yeah, absolutely.
So years back, I was in the retail industry, and I worked for an amazing company that was very much about client care and serving the client well, including the people that worked for them. And I would be used to go and help open new stores and train people on how to what that looks like in serving people. And for me, anybody who came under my tutelage as their manager, I wanted them to be raised up and I wanted them to promote out. And there would be other managers that would keep people down. And that's the corporate world, right? They somehow feel that if somebody promotes over them or promotes out, that somehow they're less than. But I've always seen it as, wow, we helped you to rise.
Yeah.
We have a little sign in one of our bathrooms that says we rise by lifting others. And I truly believe that if you can help other people to succeed and feel their purpose, that it is going to be so fulfilling for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard Cody Gibson talking about this, and Cody runs, one of those mega teams that's in multiple cities across the country. And he said, when you have that person who's ready to take that next step, that's an opportunity to invest, right? You see it, you're right. You should be able to recognize it and say, hey, I realize you're ready to start your own thing. I want to be a part of that. How can I invest in you? Right.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So, and it just changes everything, right? Because now you're not, now I'm not your competitor. Now I'm not losing someone. Now I'm like, no, I'm part of the next step of your journey, but again, you have to be out of a me-centric world if you're going to have that mindset.
You do.
So you said you're still learning in this leadership thing. What have been the biggest, I guess, the biggest lessons, right? Or the things that, I guess, challenges and things that you've had to kind of learn along the way?
Well, the first thing I learned was to delegate.
Yeah. Because
I think when you are a solo agent, you're used to doing everything. It's hard because you get to this point of production where, and my home life suffered. And Adam and I had to have lots of conversations. So you get to a point where you have to learn, okay, it's okay for someone else to do it, and it's going to be done differently. And it may not be done to your standard, but it's done. And you didn't do it. And so that was the first lesson I learned. I feel like probably a lot of solo agents would resonate with that is a very, when an agent decides that they're going to hire a transaction coordinator for the first time and they're letting go of that paperwork, it's tough, So I think that was the first, it's a very simple lesson theoretically, but it's a very hard lesson to learn.
It's very hard because delegating isn't so much just giving up the tasks, because particularly when you're running a team, it's like you've been doing this in such a way that you don't even know what you're doing anymore. And now I have to give it to somebody else, and I'm frustrated because they're not doing it, but I forgot there's like 3 other things they need to know so they can do it, right?
Yes.
And so that it is. I think it is. I think you nailed it. That is the hardest step initially, is delegating those tasks. How did you learn to overcome it? You said there was family conversations, but how did you learn to be comfortable delegating it?
Practice.
Okay.
It's just practice.
Yeah.
Practice definitely does not make perfect, but it makes it better.
Yeah.
So the more that you allow yourself to fail, the more you put yourself out there, you're going to, it's trial and error. You figure out what works, you figure out what doesn't work.
Yeah.
And then I think showing yourself grace when something doesn't work, and then not staying in that, but getting up and rising and overcoming it, and then trying something new. You have to be willing to try.
Yeah. And there's that whole process of self-evaluation. What went wrong here? What part of that was me?
Was it a skill or was it an attitude?
Right. Yeah.
Or
did
both.
I give that person everything they needed to be successful? Or and it is. It's challenging because it really is a lot of mirror looking when you're going through it.
Yeah.
It's challenging.
And that's the other thing too, I think, with leadership, is just having the humility and recognizing that the world does not revolve around you.
Yeah.
It's like parenting, the first kid you have, and you all of a sudden you have somebody else that you are caring for. And it's the same concept. It's just, getting out of your own head and your own wants and desires and focusing on that person in front of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And they're not going to live your story for their life.
Nope.
They're going to live their story for their life.
Yep.
And the sooner you figure that out, the happier everyone will be.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely. So, all right, you have alluded to this a number of times, and I've been holding off on it,
Okay.
but I think we're ready to go there. Social media, your online presence, you know, and again, this is, it's funny because we started here with the background in film and television and the BBC, but you have a phenomenal presence online, and I've seen it evolve, right? I remember at one point we were doing these, and you still do some, but the story of your client, you know, and it was really, really powerful kind of little featurettes, and now there's a lot of more of this sort of the humorous, but what's your approach to social media?
So I want when people go on any of our platforms, I want them to know who I am. Mm-hmm. I remember Laura Brown, and I helped sell their home down in San Diego and move up here to Menifee. Mm-hmm. And I walked up to her house, and she was out front, and she walks up and she gives me a big hug, and she says, I feel like I already know you. Mm-hmm. And that's what I want.
Yeah.
So it's really, you know, all of the content that we put out is, I'm a goofball. I just am.
Yeah.
And so we have a little bit of that silliness. And, you know, I've even wrangled Catalina and Daniel into doing these videos, and they are very shy people. So I always say, eventually I'll get you. So we do the funny stuff just because it's lighthearted and it lets people see us. But also, I have information that I want to share, and people ask questions when we're going through this process, and I want to share that knowledge, either with buyers or sellers, but also, you know, I've worked with realtors on the other end where they will say, Katherine, full disclosure, this is my first deal ever. And I say, awesome, let's do this together. Yeah. So, you know, all that information to share. So everything that we put out is to either share who we are and what we can provide in regards to knowledge, but also it's about our clients and their stories. I love being a part of their story. So, you know, you see my basket videos for our Keys Day. I went and shot one right before coming here, and you know, I show up, my husband says it's like satisfies my shopping addiction, but I show up with this big basket of goodies. And we just love on them, and we let them, and we capture that moment, and it's special because then they have that forever of seeing themselves open the door for the first time, or whatever that is.
Yeah, yeah. So I love that. These videos, the basket videos, this is something they can watch with their kids.
Exactly.
And they can say, "Remember that house? Oh yeah," you know, or you know, whether it's their first home, their forever home, or whatever. That's a different approach. Right? That's not me. That's them.
It's their house.
Absolutely. You know, one of the things that I've pointed out to agents when I look at your social media, and just, you know, I'm not creepy, but yes, is I think there's a lot of different ways you can position yourself in social media. You can be, I'm the expert, right? This is my story. It can be all your story, or it can be our story. And if you position your business online in such a way that it's our story, then when you have a victory, then we all won, right? And so the viewer, the follower, they see that closing and they get a little dopamine hit too, right? Because we all won. And you know, you mentioned that your database, you know, where you find the new clients, they send them to you. Well, I think that's because you've done a masterful job of it being our story. So if you know, they're happy to send them to you because they get that little dopamine hit, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was intentional or not, but I think that really comes across. It's, you know, you're sharing the journey, yours and your clients, very effectively with your followers, with your social media. And I love what you said about they know me. I want them to know me, right?
Yeah. That really is me.
Yeah.
All of the things you see, that I really am like that.
Yeah. So a lot of people don't do video. Because
it's daunting for people.
Yes.
They feel like they need to be like their hair perfect and their makeup perfect. And I mean, maybe I think if you're selling luxury, that's different. You know,
sure.
I mean, it depends who your audience is, but I think people are afraid of. It's like, remember back in the day when we had answer machines, and we heard ourselves on the answer machine. You're like, do I sound like that? My voice sounds so much higher. It's the same thing with video. I think people just they get scared.
Yeah.
But the thing is people know what you look like and they know what you sound like, and you just need to be authentic and know that it's not going to be perfect. And honestly, when everything is way too polished, it feels insincere anyway. And I don't think it has the reaction that you think it's going to have.
Right.
So just start somewhere.
You know, I call it uncanny valley, right? Because so in media, there's this concept of uncanny valley that they start talking about with computer animation. Polar Express is a good example.
Oh, I love that movie.
I love it, but the people look just a little weird,
yes,
right?
Yes,
it's uncanny valley. And so as humans, if we see something that looks human, but is just
a little AI,
we go, I can't trust that, right? And so if I'm doing videos, but it doesn't come off like me, it comes off like me trying to be something, then immediately the viewer's disconnected.
Very true.
And it's not a conscious, there's a subconscious alarm going off. I can't trust that. There's something not right here. So your advice is just go be you.
Be you.
Yeah.
I am never going to be Chris.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be me. And I think, especially I think a lot of realtors have this comparison game where you see these other people doing this or doing that, and they do that because that's who they are. Now, I think you can get great ideas, but you have to be yourself. Yeah. Because when you are yourself, then it's going to flow. It's going to feel natural, and people are going to be drawn to you.
Yeah, I think we're out of the age where you can have that headshot that's 30 years old on your card. Now, when did you get into video? Like when? Because everybody's talking about video now, but you've been doing it for a while.
Oh gosh, I don't know the answer to that question. When did I start doing video? I've been doing it so long. All I can tell you is that I started, so my marketing plan has fleshed itself out over the years. And basically, I tried one thing. I think maybe it was my weekly market updates. That might have been one of the first things that I did.
Yeah.
And, once you're consistent with it and you feel comfortable with it and it doesn't feel overwhelming, then I would add something else in. And so I think it's just developed from there. Okay.
So I love that you said the consistency thing, because that was a question. There's two approaches to social media. I had a gentleman on, Adam Schwartz. He's up in Riverside, and his approach is the guy. He literally has a cameraman on staff. He just follows him around, and if he gets an idea, he goes, "All right, hey, let's go film." And there's no social media calendar; it's just whatever, right? What's your approach? Is it we're going to do X number of videos every week? Is it we're going to do X number of educational, X number of sort of TikTok, X number of this, or is it just?
I have buckets.
Okay.
So we have the knowledge broker bucket. We have the who is Katherine and the team bucket. And then we have, listings and buyers and things like that. So, for example, and batch shooting. Lots of batch shooting. So all of the silly reels will go to somebody's house, and I'll have them all planned out, and I'll send them in advance. Okay, will you do this one? Will you do that one? And everybody says, oh my gosh, yes, I will totally do that. And then we shoot a bunch of content, and then it will get pushed out. But we have certain days that certain things are posted. And then this next week, I'm batch shooting with a friend of mine, and he and I that will be all of our January content for the knowledge broker stuff. So everything is scheduled, and my marketing plan is broken down, and it is all extremely intentional and systematic.
So if I was going to go to your Facebook, for instance, I would see something that feels very, it just feels alive. It doesn't feel static. It doesn't feel methodical. It feels spur of the moment.
Oh,
what?
Good.
No, but what I'm saying is, but what I want people to hear is, in order to have it feel like that, you have to be very intentional, right?
You want to know something funny?
Yeah, go for it.
I am rarely on social media.
Yeah.
I have to. So I will. You said you like watching my social stuff. He's like, you said not to be creepy or something. I literally go on social media to either to engage. I'll check my comments and I want to engage back with people. And I want to see everybody's kids.
Yeah.
I go on and I just want to see where everybody's at and stuff like that. But the all of the production of the content, it is all pushed out by the team.
Yeah.
So when I'm going on social media, it's because I want to engage with people.
Well, that's an important part of it, though, right? I think everybody wants views, but the views aren't really important. The comments and the opportunity for engagement is important. It's
My
the
views are
interaction.
actually not huge.
Right.
Like you go on some people's social media sites or profiles and they have insane number of views. I personally, I feel like if you go on mine, it doesn't look very impressive in regards to the views or the likes. But what people don't know is the texts and the private messages and the calls that come from that. Oh my gosh, Catherine, I saw da-da-da. Or, hey, you were talking about this in this video. And so people will engage with me and I engage back with them on that.
You know, I heard Ken Pozek talking about views. And Ken has a massive YouTube platform out of Orlando. And he had said something to the effect of, I had a video one time. It was like 20,000 views. I was really excited about it. And then I went and I got into the metrics. And like half of them were in Tokyo. And he's like, views don't mean anything, right? No, unless they're the views you want or the engagement you want, right? And it's just true. The quality is much more important than the quantity, right? But so I guess what I want to underline here is in order for it to feel spontaneous, there's a lot of work and structure that makes that happen.
Yes,
right?
A lot of planning.
I love it. But it makes sense, right? Because everybody's busy. And to do a short video sounds so simple, right? But if it's not, and I love that the batching it too, because you're a pretty busy person. And do you think if you were just trying to squeeze it between things, would it happen?
No.
So batching it is saying we're time blocking this time. We're going to do 5 of them. We're going to get it done. And then the team takes it and runs with it.
Yep.
Yeah, but again, leverage.
Intentionality.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, we are about 50 minutes in, Catherine, and it always surprises me how quick it goes. But hey, thank you. I mean, this has been awesome. I appreciate
you for having
just
me.
being so open and sharing about your business. I have the lightning round here.
Okay.
So, what is one book or podcast that has had a big impact on your business?
Ninja selling.
Ninja selling. Okay, cool. Tell me why.
And also Raving Fans.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Such an easy read, but that one, I think Raving Fans is the first one because that 1% rule of always adding on, add on and master. Always just don't try to take over the world, just a little bit at a time. Yeah.
A juggler can do like 8 balls at one time, but they can't throw them all up at once. Right? So you got to throw one ball in the air, and then another ball, and then another ball. Okay, what is one system or tool that you could not live without?
My CRM.
Okay. Well, and you mentioned Follow Up Boss. Is that what you're using?
Yeah, but people, that's a big thing on all the groups is like, which CRM? Like it's going to be magic. Use the one you use.
Yeah. Oh,
that's
absolutely.
it. Whichever one it is, just use it.
I can't tell you how many agents I've talked to in consultation, and they're like, oh, well, I've got this system because it does X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, well, are you using that?
Yeah.
No. Right? So
just use it. Just pick one and use it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. If there's one thing you do daily that sets you up for success, what is that?
Starting my day with God.
Okay. Very nice. Start the day with prayer. Cool. What does that look like?
I get up at 5. I do my yoga, which is my time with God too, because it slows my crazy mind down and it just starts me off in a good place. And then I feed the animals, make my tea, and do my Bible study with Adam.
Very nice. Okay, you say feed the animals. It sounds like you have a farm. How many?
No,
how many
dog
animals?
and 2 cats.
Dog and 2 cats. Okay, good. Feed the animals. Okay, and then if you could go back to your first year in real estate, what advice would you give yourself?
Be yourself and believe in yourself.
All right. I love it. Well, Catherine, thank you. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you, Chris.
Hey, thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, check the show notes. We'll have a little download for a PDF that you can do with some highlights from it as well. And if you like the podcast, go ahead and share it with a friend. So we will catch you guys next time.